Dr. Richard.
Just a couple questions about the content areas that our students are learning in. So there's the ST Math, and I'm figuring that's the math content area, Dreambox Math, iReady, and Achieve 3000. Understandably, all of these schools are at a different level of implementation, but where are you seeing, in which content areas, the greatest amount of implementation?
So right now, the greatest amount of implementation is in mathematics, is where we really see where students need that additional support at various grade levels to make sure we're targeting their learning.
So mostly math.
Yeah.
Okay, and so when I talk to people in the community, there's often this perception that we're sitting students down and they spend most of their day in front of the screen and getting a lot of screen time. And so there's that two-station rotation and the three-station rotation. Just in general terms, talk about how much screen time kids are having.
Well, it's really quite limited. So when you think about many of our implementations, if you look at the middle school level, what we're seeing is it's in mathematics. And so for that one period a day, about a third of their math class is spent on digital content.
Okay, a little more balanced than all day. Yeah. And then just, you're talking about next steps, measuring growth and progress. Any general ideas that are percolating up on how we'll answer that big question of the impact that blended learning is having?
Last year with our early pilots, we saw a really exciting movement in student achievement within those schools, but really looking more holistically, thinking more about non-cognitive skills like students' perseverance, their grit, things like that. We really want to see that other piece around students starting to develop that understanding of being self-motivated, self-assured learners. And so those are some of the things that we're looking at, working with our partners to measure, is so that we get this more of a 360 view of our students and how blended learning is impacting every different aspect of their development.
Thank you.
Ms. Elise?
Thank you for using your thank you for using your son's golfing experience to really explain this. That was a really good tool to really be able to go out in the community and re-explain what blended learning is. And I guess as a mom whose kids are already in their 20s, I really like that when I talk to people about testing and things that we can't control, I can bring up what we're doing here locally to make sure that we understand where our kiddos are and that instant information that we're getting. And that's such a great thing for me as a community member and a board member to really have that conversation out in the community. So thank you to everyone that's working so hard on keeping this going and getting the bugs out and moving forward and, you know, kind of sharing your experience. And I know that takes extra time for everyone, and everyone has been so great. So again, thank you for all your time and effort in really getting this off the ground, and it's really something that we should be proud of. Thank you.
Mr. Anthony?
Thanks to everybody involved. I think it's great that it's a competency-based instrument. It allows them to work at their own pace, and everybody travels differently on the roadmap to success. And that's what's used in my household with my wife all the time and her students. And so I greatly appreciate it. My questions for the middle school are, though, what percentage of the middle school educators are currently using blended learning within their rooms?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look into the exact percentage. I don't have a percentage in my head of exactly what that looks like.
And is it their choice to undertake this large step academically?
Yeah, and so that's one of the things we've really worked around is we really want teachers, when they're ready to take this on because of the incredible transformation, and so making sure they have all the tools. And so it's been around teams working together to get up and running in these schools.
I really appreciate that component for you, because we've added so many curriculums lately that if we add something else and they're not ready for it, then it's going to fail miserably. And I appreciate that, and I know that with the coaches' assistance that we'll move forward in a positive manner. So I appreciate that.
Mr. Hall?
Dagan, thanks to you and Dr. Dowdery for that. That was a great presentation. I mean, it really was. And your example with your son swinging the club is I've got a grandson we do that with in the same way. But would you take just a minute and, for those that may be watching or for those that may not know, talk a little bit about the competency-based aspect of this and the mastery portion of it, and also the reactivity time available for the teacher, how the teacher can actually spend what I've been stated this way is they're able to be much more efficient and reactive and right on, almost on the spot. Could you take just a few minutes? I know that's a big subject, but if anybody can do it, you can.
Keep it under an hour.
Are you referring back over here?
Well, whichever way you'd like this to go.
I think what would be helpful would be if you could walk through really what does it look like in the classroom when as teachers are getting this kind of immediate feedback, how are they able to address instruction? I think that would be a good place to start.
There's no doubt that these new tools provide us amazing insight into where students are in their learning progression. And so when teachers see that a student doesn't fully understand something and they get that from multiple sources, it really gets to that point of, there's the conversations around competency and mastery, and then there's that conversation that's really around every teacher's in their gut wants to make sure every single student masters the standards and they really know it deeply. And how they go about that, there are a number of different ways to do that. Competency and mastery is one way where they don't move ahead. Other teachers have taken that on they know that, and so they find ways to fill holes as they go through the year. And so anytime that we get into blended models, the conversation around competency and mastery starts to come up because we become so clear about what students know and what they don't know and what the next step in their learning progression is.
I think that's great. That was a perfect answer to a drawn-out question that Dr. Pilcher boiled down. The main point that I wanted to make with that explanation is that many people believe that blended learning is taking the place of teachers. And it's quite the opposite.
Absolutely.
So that was, you made the point perfectly. That actually the teacher is always as critical as they have ever been, but now it's even been ratcheted up a level because it's not on a once a week test or quiz or something like this. It's every day. So thanks.
Mr. Lydiak.
Again, I want to echo those same sentiments that thanking all the people that have been involved, and I'm grateful to all the planets that have aligned themselves to allow us to start this new chapter in District 6. This is really an exciting new time for us, and the fact that we do have the infrastructure, the support, the professional development. I agree with Mr. Hall. This is really an exciting time that we can see technology truly integrated into our instruction, and it's a tool to empower the teacher, to empower the students. I think we're just really anxious to see how this year progresses. And our effective use and identification of blended learning models and what's most effective, and very excited to look at the growth and the data at the end of the year. So thanks for all the hard work.
Miss Elise, something next? Okay, sure, thank you. Thank you very much, appreciate it. One of the things that we were talking about in our work session this evening was student responsibility for learning, and how do we express to our community that we feel obligated to make sure that every student has the opportunity to learn, the chance to get learning experiences, but that student responsibility. And tonight you presented this notion of student ownership as a key component of this. And so I think all the heads on the board members were rocking a little bit, because we were trying to find exactly the method by which we can assert that we're not doing things to students. We're allowing students to realize how much opportunity they have to grow. And so you're giving us the avenue to really measure that. We certainly appreciate that. The next item is the 2016-2017 district calendar process and parameters, which sounds thrilling, but I think it will be. Go ahead, Dr. Pilcher.
Thank you, President DeWitt. So it's that time of year where we need to start our planning work for the school calendar for the 16-17 school year. And what you have before you in your board packet is an item of information. We've provided you with the parameters that I believe you have used in the past that we've then taken to our committee to use to develop the district calendar that would be presented to you all in December for possible approval. As you know, it's a requirement that the Board of Education act on the district calendar and approve the district calendar prior to planning for the next school year. And so Dr. Ayton is here tonight to share with you or answer any questions that you might have about the process. And we would look to you if you have some guidance for us as a Board of Education that is different from the parameters that we have here. We'd look for you to provide those to us as we move forward.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, President DeWitt, Superintendent Pilch, and members of the Board of Education. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to talk about the exciting school district calendar. This affects a lot of our people, so we ask that we have this process, and then we turn around by February. March 1st is kind of our goal to have them work calendars out to staff so they can plan the next 14 to 16 to 18 months of their life going forward. So it is very important. We have a large committee of people who, from teachers to administrators to community members who work on the committee, and they're really a good group. They support Ms. Otto and I doing that and have lots of good ideas and come together every year very well. So it really is a good process. But it all begins with you. You're the voice. You're listening to the community. These parameters, in being able this year to listen to teachers. We're going to see how that differentiated day on either side of winter break works, but people are excited for that possibility. So that was something that you approved, and that is in here as one of our parameters now. So
Thank you.
yeah. So that's kind of an introduction. I can go through this or entertain any questions that you have.
Take any
here.
comments.
Mr.
Mr. Hafley is prepared with one.
Okay.
Thank you for implementing the teacher work days at the end of the semester and at the beginning of the semester and giving those other days off for the levels. I think that was a great compromise between you and Ms. Otto, and I greatly appreciate that. And I think Mr. Eads deserves lots of credit for that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So thank you.
It
was great to see that our educators came back on a Thursday as opposed to a single Friday.
Thank you.
And I still would like to see it one day earlier, but
Yeah.
you know, but one day is an improvement, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that input, and we heard from not only you, but from teachers, and have been able to make that change. Remember, somebody has to come back on a Friday.
I know that.
Just the way the funny math works out.
Well, we have had an opportunity to look through this material, and we've also been working collaboratively with other staff members along the way. So I don't know that we have additional questions for you. I know we'll have an opportunity to continue to discuss a couple things with you this evening, but at this time, I thank you for your presentation and for the information about the calendar.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes, thank you. And thanks in advance for Ms. Otto and the committee as we endeavor to do our deliberations and come back to you with some great calendar options.
Nice. Thank you, sir. Next item is the second read and adoption of Policy GCFA, hiring of instructional staff, portability of non-probationary status. Welcome, Logan. Glad you could be with us this evening.
Popping back in.
Glad to have you here. This is an action item, and I will accept a motion at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the adoption of Policy GCFA, hiring of instructional staff, portability of non-probationary status, as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Dr. Pilcher, lean your way again and see if you have some directions you'd like to offer.
You know, I have nothing new to add over the last meeting where we presented this. This is putting into policy the practice that we will follow as we hire teachers who had non-probationary status in their former district. This will be the practice we'll follow as we consider that employee for non-probationary status as we bring them into our system.
Well, here's an opportunity to air questions that we didn't have the chance to earlier in discussions. Any board member want to discuss that at this time? Here's your golden opportunity. I don't see any questions of the board or additional comments. Looks like it might be time for a roll call. Ms. Bray?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Hafley?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mr. Richardson?
Aye.
Mrs. Elise? And the motion carries 7-0.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Aiden, thanks. Dr. Aiden, forgive me. You're not a civilian anymore. The next item is an unusual item, at least for my experience on the board. The school board doesn't very often let go of any of its possessions unless it's a well-worn school bus. But in this particular situation, we have the opportunity to look at a piece of district property, the John Evans Tree Nursery property, as a possibility to see to better use. Dr. Pilcher?
Thank you, President DeWitt. So we, our Chief Operating Officer, Wayne Eads, put out a request for proposals to the community through the Greeley Tribune, offering to sell this district property that you all ruled last board meeting was no longer viable for school usage. We did receive one offer and one response to that RFP from Habitat for Humanity for the property. And so we're excited and eager to move forward with Habitat for Humanity and allow them the purchase of this property that they intend to develop for affordable housing on that property. And we're excited about this. We do have the final contract to work out, and that would come back to you, President DeWitt, for your signature if the board approves the sale this evening.
Excellent. Well, this is also not news to the board. We've had an opportunity to look through much material associated with this. We've all had a chance to individually wander out and see the property and see that it's displaced from where we would normally expect to be using a school or school usage. It's in a location that doesn't lend itself to additional use. Have we already gone a motion on this? Excuse me. That's why I'm stalling for time. I found myself out of sync. But before you allow me to say any more about this, let's have a motion on this. The motion is on page 9.
I move
to accept.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 accept the proposal from Habitat for Humanity to acquire John Evans Tree Nursery property and authorize the president to sign any and all documents related to the transaction subject to final review by legal counsel.
Second.
Great. It has been moved and seconded. What comments or questions are there? Ms. Elise?
No questions, but I did have a comment. Usually this stuff isn't very exciting, but to think that this land can go to Habitat and really help families, that is a win-win for us. So I'm really excited to see this move forward.
Other comments from board? We did have a chance to chat about this. A couple of things that I wanted to remind everyone about is that this isn't property that we've deemed useful in the near term. We've tried to look far into the future and see how we might regret doing this. And we've simply, as a staff and as board, been unable to see a value to retain it. And as you've said, Ms. Elise, what a value to see home ownership blossom in an area where there are services available and the possibility for seeing families be able to claim an area of grass and a couple of trees. That's a good trade, a good opportunity. So the other feature that we imposed upon the sale of this would be that the potential user would be a good neighbor. And I think there's no doubt that Habitat for Humanity will fulfill that mission. Ms. Elise?
Can you also remind everyone where the money would go once we sell the land?
Dr. Pilcher?
Absolutely. So the $40,000 for the purchase of this land would return to our capital improvements budget. So, and that's required by law that it goes to capital projects. So probably to repair of roofs or other needs in the district, deferred maintenance needs most likely.
Thank you.
Mr. Hall?
This situation and this deal is really very simple in that we have the opportunity, because we have some excess property that we have extensively, and Wayne has researched extensively to see if it could have any value to the operation of District 6 at all, really. And we can't, again, as President DeWitt said, we really can't find any good merited thing. But it's a win-win deal because it invests in the community. Habitat for Humanities is going to build homes, single-family homes or duplex homes, whatever it is, for several in an area that can use the uplift and be very good for their area. We get some cash, $40,000, that will be utilized in our desperately needed capital projects. It won't take very long at all for Wayne to find where that could go.
I imagine he's already spent it.
And so this is just an absolute true win-win deal, and that's the best deals.
Dr. Richard.
I was wondering if Mr. Eads would come up and just talk through that process of how we got to this point in the due diligence of finding a price, mineral rights related to the property, and the actual offer that we received.
Dr. Pilcher, is there someone else in addition that we should pick on?
It's absolutely the person who should talk
And-
about that.
Brilliant, thank you.
Really, as we realized we were going to tear down the John Evans Middle School building as part of a bigger project, we took a close look at that area and realized there's this 2.7 acre parcel, if no one said it, so it's fairly small. It's actually adjacent to, but not part of, the John Evans property. It's separated by a right-of-way. The district used it to plant trees on, to grow for other school sites, but ceased that use in the 90s. So it's really just been sitting there. And as we took a look at best use, I was actually contacted by Habitat that they were looking for properties, and so we thought this might be a good match. We did do a comparative market analysis so we could establish a fair market price. We are reserving the mineral rights. It's not part of Habitat's mission. So it seemed like it was a natural thing to do, was to do the due diligence of posting requests for proposals in the newspaper, in the legal notices section, so that others would know that we were looking for proposals. And we asked, what's the purpose? How will it benefit the community? What's the schedule? And I will mention that they do plan to start next year with some development of those homes. So it seemed we got actually an offer that was slightly above what was the high end of fair market value for this particular parcel. So it seemed like a very good thing to recommend, which we're recommending. So,
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments from the board? Again, this is a rare moment, but I think it might be that rare moment we call on the roll call to make a decision.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mr. Richardson?
Aye.
Mrs. Elise?
Aye.
And the motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much once again for all involved in this, and good luck to Habitat for bringing out some new houses for our school district. We'll have some clouds, some more students in our district. Well, the next item is to say goodnight. This represents an adjournment for the evening. Our work is done for the night, and we are adjourned.